Planted a church, started a church plant in Albania in March of 2011, and the Lord opened the door for me to start the coalition in March of 2011. And I met Altin in September of 2011, and so we've known each other a long time.
13 years ago.
Yeah. Altin's got an amazing story of how God brought him out of an atheist country, searching for God in the mosque as a Muslim. And I don't want to tell too much of the story, but obviously he now is planting churches for Jesus. So we're gonna share a little bit of that story. But first, I want to help you understand a little bit about Albania and the background for Altin's story. And I will say this: I've been going to Albania since about 2005, for almost 20 years. I have never, ever seen a movement of the Holy Spirit like what is happening in Albania across the country. Now, and it starts with people, because it's about 70% Muslim, it starts with them seeking God in the mosque. And guess what? They don't find him there. And so we want to share that with you. The other thing is I'm excited. I have two people that have just joined the coalition, Tony Wells and Mark LaFleur. And Mark's got his wife, Michelle, with him. And my wife keeps telling me, you can't work forever. So I'm testifying in front of this group that it is, and my wife says, listen,
She's recording.
that I'm retiring in October of next year. Now, retiring for me doesn't mean not working. It means working much less on a less rigid schedule. Right, Bobby? Okay, so we're okay with that. But God has brought these two guys into the coalition to kind of carry the baton forward. And one of the things that we are excited to announce is right now we counsel about 70 people a month. We spend about 10 to 12 months with each one of them. So in the course of a year, we counsel about 150 people. We have set a target of tripling that, more than tripling that, to go to 500 people that we see in a year. And in doing that, we will be able to significantly increase the amount of funds for church planting, but we also need to add more to that, because this young guy here has an amazing dream of wanting to plant 30 churches a year for 10 years in a row.
Yeah.
Now that's a church of about every 20 days for 10 years. That's the pace. I didn't believe he could do that.
I still don't believe I can do it.
Well, yeah, we can't, right?
We can't.
God has to do it.
God has to do it.
But we began this partnership in March, at the end of March of this year, Easter. And since Easter, this man and his team has planted 7 churches. And he's identified more than 30 that are ready to go. That's how, and we were talking today of prioritizing, and we're probably going to be able to plant 2 or 3 by the end of September, which will bring us to about 9 or 10. But God has been pressing on me just to tell the story and let God do the rest. So we're here to tell you the story. I mean, yeah, I would want you to partner with us, but more than anything, I want to hear the story of what God is doing, both in soul care and in the country of Albania. So Altin's got a video here that we're going to watch. We'll step aside and turn the video on. This is a short video that kind of brings you up to date with what's happened in the last 30 years in Albania. So.
Over the centuries, the church in Albania has been hit with just about everything hell can throw at it. In the first century, the early Christian church quickly spread beyond Jerusalem to the Balkan Peninsula, flourishing despite opposition by the Roman Empire. In 1912, Albania became an autonomous republic, but this peace was short-lived. During the Second World War, Italian fascists and German Nazi armies invaded, causing Albania to ally itself with Soviet communists. Yet at the war's end, a powerful dictator named Enver Hoxha came to power. Hoxha proclaimed Albania the world's first atheist state. During the following 46 years of Hoxha's repressive regime, some 100,000 Albanians were imprisoned or executed. Young people were encouraged to destroy churches, to turn in clergy to the authorities. Preaching carried a 3 to 10 year prison sentence, and training of church leaders stopped. There were only a handful of known Christians in the country. Then, in 1992, something changed. The regime was overthrown. A church which had silently existed reemerged to a post-communist world. Now in his 60s, Pastor Ali Korti has seen the full scope of the Christian church in Albania. Today, he devotes his energy to the training of the next generation of Albanian church leadership, those who have never known communism.
Komunizmi u rrëzua, njerëzit vëshuan në përsheshe edhe shpresa erdhi përsëri.
Yes.
So yes, there is hope. Again.
Hope was born again.
Now this man lived as a young boy under communism. So I'm gonna interview him and let him tell his story. So Altin, what I'd like you to do is, share what was going through your mind as all of this was happening, because you were what 10 or so, or
Yeah, I was 16 years old when the system changed, so I lived 16 years in the communist system.
okay. So
I like to be proud of Albania for a moment.
okay, you
So
can do
if you
that.
don't know Albania, the older generation, I say, do you know Blues Brothers? Yes, they are both Albanians. Or Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa is Albanian. But the younger generation, I say, do you know Dua Lipa, the singer, or Rita Ora? So yeah, Albania is a small country, but it's where its position geographically is very key, influential country, and has had a lot of wars and tensions and everything. But you find Albania in the Bible. I want to say that too. Romans 15:19.
You should ask him what is it? What is Albania in the Bible? Anybody
Yes.
know that?
Romans 15.
Well, that's where it's at.
I
But
just joked, yeah.
but what's it called?
What was called in the first century?
There's an Albanian word in the Bible.
Yeah,
Macedonia?
Close.
close. Illyricum. Illyricum.
Elir is an Albanian word that means free.
Yes, and Paul said, I brought the gospel from Jerusalem up to Illyricum with signs and wonderings. And in Albania is the start of Egnatia Road, Egnatian Road, how do you call it in English? And it starts in Durrës, middle of Albania, goes through Albania, South Macedonia, North Greece, and goes through the Middle East. And even in Durrës, have you been to
Yeah,
amphitheater?
I've been there.
It's a huge amphitheater, and the Roman soldiers would come from Italy with boats. They would rest in the amphitheater and entertain themselves, and then they'll start the journey through Egnatia Road toward east.
Which I believe some people say that Colosseum was where Paul preached. I don't think they have any
They
documented.
don't have any document,
But
but he said
Where else would he go, right?
yes. There's another one that says Titus was killed there, but still they don't have evidence to prove that. But he said, I preach up to Illyricum because Paul would follow the infrastructure that was there, and what was there was Roman roads. So he followed this. So yeah, But yeah, we were occupied in 15th century from Ottoman Empire, from Turkish Empire, and that changed everything in our country because they stayed 500 years. I don't know what they like. They like our mountains, they like our sea view, or they like our food, or I don't know what they like. But they stayed 500 years. At that level, Albania was same like Austria, Italy, and everything. We had universities, we had everything was a very good structure, and most of the leaders were educated in Italy. But when Turkish came, we say, "What happened to Albania?" The Turkish came, and they occupied and changed culture, religion, everything. But then it's not bad; it gets worse with the Hoja guy.
Yeah.
With our dictator was very crazy. You can go to jail for even say the name of God. You'd go. A lot of priests or Christians were put in jail and punished, and it was very crazy. But so we were taught that there is no God. God is for weak people. People use God because they're lazy to work. They don't want to use their brain. So we were taught that all the time,
By your teachers
by our teachers
in school.
in school. And our teacher would say, now what I taught you, go and tell your grandparents. Because that was the only age group they could not influence. Because our parents were working, so they could influence our parents in the work. But the grandparents, they could not influence, so they were teaching us. So I'd sit with my grandmother and tell her, my teacher said there is no God. And so she would fast in Eden. The Ramadan, the 30 days of fasting for Muslims, she would fast in Eden. She would say, do you want to drink? No, I'm not thirsty. But do you want to eat? No, I'm not hungry. So she would, but not tell anybody that she's doing the 30 days of fasting. But one day, well, it was evening actually, we were planting potatoes in our small yard. And in my mind, I have to convince her there is no God. So I tried to explain my grandma there is no God. And I still can imagine her face. She was very quiet, very soft. She would say to me, okay, but what about this? What about the stars? What about the moon? What about the sunrise? What about this? What about the potatoes we're planting? How they'll grow? And she'll make me think. Maybe grandma is right. Maybe teacher is wrong. But I couldn't say that.
Now remember that Albania had been under communist rule for 50 years.
Yeah.
So the fact that his grandma would be saying this was something that she had to keep silent.
Yes.
She couldn't tell
Very
it to
silent.
anybody. So, but she held on despite all that.
And I would say, I wrote a book last year because last year was my 30th year accepting Jesus. And in one page of the book I wrote, in that day, 2 seeds were planted. We planted potatoes, and after a few months the potatoes gave fruit, but it was planted the seed of faith in my heart as well. And that seed, it took 7 years to give fruit. Because after 7 years, I had the desire to know God, and it was open in 1992. Like the guy says, for me it was 1993. I had a desire to know God. And in our context, you skip one generation. If you want to know God, you don't ask what were my parents, because our parents were grown during communism, so they're all atheists. We skip one generation and we say, what were our grandparents? And our grandparents are Muslim. So I searched God in the Muslim books for several months until I say this word, until accidentally I find the Bible. Because
Accidentally.
accidentally I find the Bible because it's not the right condition.
How did you do that?
I am at my uncle's house, the uncle from my mom's side, and we're drinking moonshine, and we're competing who can stay standing still. So drinking.
You're talking about Raki, right?
Raki.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand.
So Raki is like moonshine.
Yeah, it is. Except
Oh my
everybody
goodness,
makes
we're
it.
drinking so much. And then I see a strange book in the window. Which was, I'm in last year high school, all the books had colors, mountains, some kind of scratches. That book is black. It has thin papers. Every page had 2 columns and so many numbers. It's like a code book. I was very curious. What is this? I never saw this book. And my uncle said, this humanitarian aid group came to my work. They gave us a food box, and it has this book. And he said, it has small letters. I cannot read it. If you like, you can take it. So I got the book, and a few days after that, I started reading out of curiosity, and I got stuck in the Sermon on the Mount. The Gospel of Matthew was so beautiful. Every word, every verse was so amazing. And I read and reread Sermon on the Mount. I couldn't go any further. I was in love with this Jesus, and I said, I'm willing to change religion. I'm willing to become a Catholic.
Now, let me interject here. Remember, there were no evangelical, so
No Christian
the
at all.
underground church was Catholic. So you were either Muslim or Catholic.
So-
There were no evangelicals, no Protestants. So that's why, Islam isn't working, so I'm going to become Catholic.
Yeah. So even though all the bad jokes in school, in high school, we had all these bad jokes about priests and nuns. But even though we said so many bad words, I was so much in love with Jesus. I don't care. I just want to follow this man. So a few months after that, I went in army. In my time was mandatory, 1.5 years. And there I met the first born-again Christian in my life. And he was from Brethren Church. And he heard from a Mexican missionary. Can you imagine? Mexican missionary in the center of town, close to his house, was the first guy. So he was the first guy in the army that really explained to me, like, when I gave my life to Jesus, I didn't got a new religion, but I got a new relationship. And this is what it means. So and then every day after lunch, would sit and read the Bible and discuss together. Yeah, that was the begin. And then we would go to this Mexican church. It was 2 hours walking from our army base.
You walked
We walked, and we loved it.
in the mountains.
No, it was not very mountain. It was.
Okay.
And now I don't.
I've walked up a hill in Albania.
Yes.
The hills are hard.
Yes, but when you go to church, I don't know if you have been to a church service with the Brethren Church, but it was like messy, because the songs, everybody had a book, and you say a number and everybody sing, no guitar, nothing, and half of the church seemed very very ugly, very bad, and it's like 25, and they start singing. But I was so hungry, I loved everything. And then we had the old lady in the church. She never let us go without eating 2 fried eggs and a piece of cheese, because we had 2 hours to walk back. So she wanted us to not die in the street on the road. So every time she said, don't go, stay with me. She was a very poor lady, but she would fry us 2 eggs, a piece of bread, some cheese. Now you can go.
And this is in a small village
Yes.
in Albania, mountains.
Yeah, and yeah.
Okay.
And my village had no road for cars. So, and it was a small it is a small village, still exists. And there was a mission that came in Albania, was called Heli Mission with helicopter. And this mission would send missionaries in the villages where is no road. So they brought a couple of missionaries in my hometown, out of nowhere. They brought a couple of missionaries from Boise, Idaho. Out of nowhere from USA. So sent him out of nowhere in Albania. And he happened to be my neighbor. While I am in the army, I have 5 sisters. While I am in the army, he shared Jesus there, and he find my book, find my Bible underlined, and said, "Who's the guy? Who's this that underlined?" They said, "Oh, it's our brother. He's in army." But when I came back, I met with him. We talked together, and I start children ministry with him very early May 1995. 29 years ministry. I started with him with children.
Wow.
Yeah.
So some way you ended up in Tirana.
Yes, because 1997, Albania had like a civil war, almost like a civil war. And all the missionaries left the country. I was the oldest guy in the group. And the missionary said, you know, I have to leave. You take over. See you. And then I did, that time I only, I did not have a lot of leadership, knowledge how to do things. After 3 months he came and then he anointed me for ministry. But that time I started Bible school as well, 97, 2000, 3 years. The Bible school was built like 1 week you go to Bible school, read, take essays, take all the homework home, stay 2 weeks home and then go back, like 1 week school, because there was not enough leaders to keep all the students in school all the time. There was needed in the field to do church and to do ministry. So yeah, and then 2005 I delegated the ministry to another couple and moved in the city.
Okay.
And yeah.
So then in 2011, how did you start that church?
I worked for a Christian organization for some years, and I was involved in ministry, and I wanted to start a church. I believe God called me to start a church. And the first try we did with campus, my team, I built a team of 8 people. We did with Campus Crusade. We had this one part of Tirana, and we showed Jesus film in a lot of places there, and I felt pretty good. In the whole 2 weeks, we showed Jesus film in a lot of places. Nobody came to faith. Like nobody, zero. I was so disappointed. I thought, maybe I'm not for this. Maybe I didn't, when you doubt your calling, maybe I didn't pay attention. Maybe it was not from God. Maybe it was me. Maybe. All these maybes I had in mind. And I had to spend time with God to reconfirm my calling. And then when I reconfirmed my calling, everything that had church planting, I was in the first row. Conference for church planting, I'm in the first row. If God called me for this, I have to learn how to do this. So I would read books on leadership, books on church planting. The most books I have is either leadership or church planting in my house. Because if God called me to do this, I have to learn how to do it. So yeah, and then 2011, I started the church. We met together 6 months after that. We started our church.
I want to tell a little bit of a story, though. So after I left Grace Fellowship Church, I was a little bit uncertain about what God wanted me to do. And I knew I had a friend who lived in Albania, and I wrote him. His name was Nathan. Mm-hmm. And I said, Nathan, I have this crazy idea that we can train and equip Albanians to be church planters. And in that day, it wasn't the Albanians that were doing the church planting. It were, Western missionaries that would come and do the work, and they would have, people like Altin help them. And so Nathan convinced me, he said, well, I got this thing called the 1520 Project. And this is what it's all about. And I said, Nathan, I love the idea, but I hate the name. He said, what do you mean? It's from Romans 15:20. Yeah, let's call it a coalition because we're trying to get people to work together. And he said, oh, I like that. That's how the 1520 Coalition was born the same week that Altin started his church. And he said, you got to get over here. So I go over there, and then I said, well, where are we going to go to church? I want to go to an Albanian church. He said, oh, I have this friend. His name's Altin. Let's go to church with him. And because he just started a church. I said, well, where's it at? And Nathan said, well, it's in a bar. A bar, you know. Now, over there they have things they call bar. They put the word bar first. You know, the language is noun and then adjective. So bar coffee. So I said, you mean a bar coffee? No, a bar. You know, with alcohol. And I thought, what?
Half of the stage band was standing, half of the stage was liquids, you know.
So we
Spirits,
walk in
drinks.
this church, there's about, I don't know, 20, 30 people there. And behind the worship band, there's just bottles upon bottles of liquor.
A lot of
And
them.
I thought, what kind of guy is this?
Because we came with agreement with the guys of the bar. He said, Sunday I would take off, you can use it. So I said, that's the only thing we could find, so thank you.
So that was the beginning of our friendship. And we got to help him over the years. He was interested in doing this crazy thing called online church.
Yes.
I said, what do you mean online church? So, he said, well, we need some cameras, and I'm learning how to stream it, and it's a new thing, and we're going to reach all of Albania and broadcast. That's crazy. You know, who's gonna watch online?
Yeah.
But-
because Albania, 3 million people live in Albania, but we are over 10 million. So most of them live abroad, USA, West, and other. So we thought this would be a good way to.
So from all of that and all the craziness, I was learning that God wasn't in America, and God did things differently, in other parts of the world. And so what actually happened over the years?
Yeah, it was the birth of Church Planting Network, because when I shared the idea of the new church, none of my Albanians believed me. Only one American from Oregon, missionary from Frontiers.
Yeah, Frontiers.
Frontier from Oregon. This guy, he has been in Albania forever. And I meet all my Albanian friends and said, oh, your ideas are too crazy. They don't work in Albania. So I meet with his name with Von. I don't know if you met Von Golder. So I met with Von and I shared him the idea. And he said, you know what? It's like your story, he said. It's like penguins going to feed. When penguins go to eat, they line up in the piece of ice and they push one in water. And if you see videos, you see that
Really?
they push one penguin in the water. So if he comes up alive, the other penguins join. But if some sea creatures eat the penguin, nobody join. And he said, your ideas are too crazy. And he said, if you come alive, the other churches are going to follow you. But if you die, you're going to hurt. Your family is going to hurt. It's not going to be good. But that was like a prophecy for us, or how can I say it?
Yeah.
Because God used us a lot of time like a first penguin. First penguin to break the ice for many things. Because after the church, so then we started the Church Planting Network. The trend was the missionaries would come, they would start a church or a Christian organization, bring it to a certain level, delegate it to Albanians, and then they would go to different state or city or somewhere. But in my case, I started from zero. And a friend of mine started from zero. And he said, if I did it, if you did it, maybe there are more first generation of Christians that can take initiatives to start new churches, Christian organizations, to expand the Jesus impact. And that's how our Church Planting Network was birthed. And in 11 years, we have helped in the start of 68 new churches that has started, another 50 in villages. And another penguin was my wife, was the penguin. Because our nephew was born with Down syndrome, and Jonathan is 21 years old, and 21 years ago we didn't know what is Down syndrome. Can it be cured? Do you take some medication in the pharmacy? What is this? So my wife, she know a friend from her Bible school that was a doctor, so my wife would Google some information, translate, and go to this doctor and sit together to make sure the information is right. and she would train my sister how to take care of her Down syndrome boy, of Jonathan. And when we wanted to start a ministry outside of the walls of the church, my wife felt from God to not start something new, continue what you're doing. And she started Jonathan Center that has the name of my nephew, and started a care center for special needs kids, because she find out the early you intervene in their life, the better the quality of their life. And that's the center now. In many years, it served over 300 families with children with special needs. And only 2 years ago, she did a project with the U.S. Embassy in Albania. It was employment of special needs youth in the marketplace. And together with a group, they brought 4 laws. They changed 4 laws in the favor of special needs kids. So that was another penguin. So we have
You got a lot of penguins.
a group of
I
penguins.
didn't know that they push each other in the water. to
Yeah,
see
one.
if they,
Only one
Only
first.
one. To test.
I'll send you a video. It's so funny.
Yeah, I like that. So that's pretty amazing. And here's the amazing thing to me: while God is working in this man and perhaps another, you got to realize Altin and this other fellow were the first 2 Albanians to ever say, we're going to plant churches without the help of Western missionaries. I mean, this is real New Testament stuff. But while God was working in his heart to be the penguin, I never thought of that. My push was a little bit more painful than that.
Maybe the height, you fall from higher distance.
But God was working in my life to say, I need to help Albanians. I don't even know where that, well, Nathan had the idea. Nathan had the idea that we need to help Albanians, not send Western missionaries. And and now, what happened to the momentum? How did we get to where we're at today?
Because 2020, it's I think, when I think COVID and 2020, I think you guys taste a little bit of dictator, communism as well.
Oh, yeah.
Did your leaders enjoy putting rules and don't letting you gonna, in Albania was crazy during COVID. They will put you have to go out only 2 hours, but not together. The man goes and then he come home and then, it was so crazy.
Yeah.
So COVID was just a huge mess in our country. It killed our momentum of the church planting network. And we lost energy a little bit. And we thought, maybe this was it. 10 years, church planting network. We started 68 new churches. Actually, we started 4 in Macedonia, 3 in Kosovo, 2 in Montenegro, the countries around. We thought, maybe this is it. It was good ministry 10 years. Now what is next? And while we took a time to pray, we felt from God that it's not time to give up again. It's not time to give up. Let's go again for 10 more years until 2033. 2033 it's a millennial when we celebrate Jesus 2000 risen from the dead. And we said, what if we can celebrate Jesus risen from the dead with multiplying the number of the churches? Albania has 300 churches, 3 million people. We have 1 church for 10,000 people. What if we multiply that? Empower 300 churches, so in 10 years they start 1. And then we'll have 600 churches, 1 church for 5,000 people. What if? And that's the time we met again. Actually, we met to talk about something else.
I called you because I was kind of moaning about life in general. I said, I want to talk to Altin because we have had lots of good So I called him up and explained why I was sad. And Altin says, well, maybe we should partner together. Could you do that? And then he said, this is that dream I have. And I thought, you're crazy, Altin. 300 churches or 30 a year. But we said, okay, let's pray about it. We did. We were very careful. We took a month or so going back and forth, writing the partnership, making sure that we understood each other, and that's how we launched it. And I'll tell you one funny, quick story as we bring this part to a close, that I've always thought, if we're going to do this, I had to hire somebody who knew how to raise money, because I actually hate asking for money. I really do. But so I hired a guy from Florence Baptist who does this for a living. And so he was telling me, you just got to tell your story. Tell God's story. And ask the people to pray about, do they want to be involved in God's story? So, okay. So my wife and I, for Mother's Day, went to visit my daughter in Florida. And because we're supposedly going to retire someday, we belong to a Hilton vacation club. And we were, this pitch, they give you free food, free nights and all that, to listen to them. So we did. Listen to this guy for an hour or so. And then I said, let me tell you, I was thinking, I gotta just tell God's story, tell God's story. So I said, okay, let me tell you what I do. And I told him about church planning and all that. His eyes got really big. And he says, well, let me tell you a little bit my story. I was raised in Colombia in South America. 20 years ago, I came to this country and started reading my Bible. And I'm a born-again Christian. So tell me more about what you're doing. And so for about 20, 30 minutes, I tell him about that. And he says, oh, I want to help you. And I'm thinking, great, okay, he's going to give me $100 or something like that. and it's like I hear in my head, tell him a story. Okay, well, his name was Garcia. I said, Garcia, it costs $10,000 to plant a church. Now, that's cheap in America, but we can do it. And this is what it does. It provides a year worth of rent and buys equipment and TVs and chairs and stuff. And he says, well, I want to help you. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what can I tell you more? And he says, well, let me tell you something. What you don't know is that I've been praying for the last 6 months, and I've been saving money and waiting for God to tell me who to give it to. You're the man. Here's $10,000.
It was our fourth church or third church, I don't know.
I didn't know this guy. And God, I'm there to have a good time, free on Hilton. and I walk away with $10,000 to plant a church just because I told the story.
Beautiful.
So this is the story. Now, you can probably tell that Altin's pretty humble. So he won't tell you some of the things that I want to kind of close with, is that 300 churches in all of Albania. Now, think about that. Albania has a population of 3 million. Metropolitan Greater Cincinnati has a population of over 1.5 million. So about double the population is Albania. They have 300 churches. You know how many evangelical or Protestant churches there are in Greater Cincinnati? 1,600. 1,600. And they have 300 for a population of double.
You have almost one church for 1,000 people.
Yeah, yeah. And they don't even have one church for 10,000 people. But God seems to be on the move. And so we're just saying, help us do this. Help us do this. So what we say is, hear the story. Now one thing, why do you want Albanians to do it and not Western missionaries? Now, be honest.
We still love you, Americans.
I know. Be honest.
So it's first of all, we love Americans.
Yeah, I know that.
Because it's part of history, part of our history. America has had a very key role in our history since many years ago. But I mean, I would say American missionaries are good, but they need to be for a specific role, because in general, if you come missionary, you take 2 years to learn the language.
At least.
And sometimes they don't learn it even for 2 years.
And sometimes they say bad words when they're trying to say good words.
Yes, because the guys in the street, they teach you the bad words first.
I've had personal experience.
Yes, I know that. But I think it's more easy. it's more easy to equip Albanians and do ministry among
You know the
Albanians.
culture too, right?
They know the culture. They know how to handle situation. They can read people. Can read. They can talk and they know if it is sincere or he's playing or because we're grown among each other.
So
We
what I've
know each other.
learned is that the role of the American is changing from the one doing the missionary work to the one advising and
Supporting,
coming
advising,
alongside
coming
and
alongside,
encouraging the Albanians to do it.
empowering. Yes.
So this network, this church planting movement, of the 300 churches, you know, Altin's network has over 100 of them.
Yeah.
And the next largest network in Albania has 9 churches in it.
So yeah.
The network that he's involved with has been awarded the contract to translate the Chosen program into Albanian.
Yes.
His
I'm working
network,
with season 4.
his network has been chosen to write the Albanian storylines for the U version of the Bible.
Bible reading plans.
Yeah, the reading
Content
plans.
creator to-
You can get on there and you can pick topics and all that.
Yeah.
So God has placed Altin in a unique
Producing
place.
resources. Yeah.
He's got the materials. He's got everything he needs, including a list of 35 places that he wants to plant a church. And so we're trying to just tell this story and say, if you can help, please help. Now, you might not be able to write a check for $10,000, but $100 a month for 10 years plants one church. Or
Yes.
or a group. You could take it. You could say, well, I got some friends. We can group together, and so we're identifying church plants with the groups of people that give. So I'm just really excited. So thanks for sharing your story. There's
my
materials there, but there is another part of this story. So as we transition, I'm gonna have Tony and Mark come up. I'm gonna give you the mics. You give them the mics, and I'm going to ask them a few questions. This won't be as long, but